Hi, welcome to season 8. We're in episode 4, which is focusing on building categories. Because there's so much change going on, and it seems like it's a great time to really not only look at your products and services, but look at a category overall and see what you might want to do to take a fresh eye to it. And we are focusing on different companies that we've seen actually do this quite well. Tom, oh wait, I need to introduce us. I'm Mary Abazia, and we have Tom Spitali and John Wellham.
No Rascal today. Where's
No
Rascal?
Rascal today.
Fast asleep. He missed the memo. You see, you changed the recording day, and Rascal just gets all thrown out, man. He's just his creature of habit.
Oh, man.
Oh, so Tom, will you start us off on the focus of today?
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about a success story, a company that we worked with that created a new category, or at least a new market within an existing category, and did a ton of things right, very little wrong, although what they did wrong, we may touch on that as well. And the end of the whole journey that we're going to discuss today was that they were purchased for $11 billion by Nestle. We're talking about the former Wyeth Nutrition in the infant formula category. And we've talked about them before, but we're going to dive deep on all the things that they did to get there. I think the one other thing I'll mention is when they were sold for $11 billion to Nestle, it was a multiple of sales of about 6 or 7 times their annual sales, which is just remarkable and speaks to how coveted they were by Nestle. So let's talk about them.
And Nestle had a product too. I mean, it wasn't like Nestle was buying they had products like that. So it's pretty remarkable.
Yes.
John, what do you think?
Yeah, it's it's the ultimate test of value, isn't it? We can look at some of the work that we've done with various people and be happy and proud that they've had some success or they've grown their penetration. But that is the ultimate, is if your business is successful enough to be bought at a premium, then something's going very well. So I guess it's a good story, and it's an interesting tell as well, because there's so many factors involved in this, right? This isn't just a simple case of a standard product and then finding new markets for it, or reshaping the market you're in. It's about changing lots of things positively and having a sort of multiplier effect. Because previous episodes we've talked about maybe big moves or specific moves that people have made, but this is a tale of doing a lot of little things right that add up to a very big thing. I guess that's how I'd characterize it anyway.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's the right way to frame this. One of my favorite elements of what they did to build their category was they had a remarkable focus on stakeholders. And they had our friend Lynn Rosen, who was dedicated to KOLs. And she developed the strategy for it. She had a positioning. She did everything that you would do for a product, but she did it for this KOL group. She cultivated
KOL, Mary, tell them what a KOL is.
It's a key opinion leader. And in the medical industry, that's kind of tricky because everyone wants their attention. But they built a program that was so strong and so strategic that there were elements that particular group wanted to support them with all of their credibility. So I think, as you think about building your categories, is there a KOL or key opinion leader group that you might want to start to cultivate in better ways to develop more trust in your industry?
Yeah, and I should have probably said this when we set it up. I mean, the part of the market and the category that they really created was premium. We talked about they sold for a premium. Well, their product was like a super premium product in infant formula. What they were creating was what you might call the gold standard. And I think that kind of move, it's really, really important to have these key opinion leaders on board. Don't you think so? I mean, what are some of the reasons that a KOL, key opinion leader strategy might be really important in a premium market?
I guess whenever you're charging more for something, the equation is always you charge more, you're adding more, you're creating more value. There has to be a perception of that value. And sometimes, especially in a technical product, which of course nutrition is, you really want to get that stamp of endorsement that the benefits are not superficial, they're meaningful. And for a product like that, a key opinion leader, someone who's maybe medically qualified or someone who is heavily involved in the aspect of the market you're in this case, infant nutrition, those individuals carry a lot of weight. An endorsement or even a gentle nod or an acceptance by some of those people magnifies throughout. Because let's face it, most of us, if we think all the way back to being parents and being in a position to buy this sort of product, it's a high stress product because you want to do the very, very best. It's one of the few products that you buy where you really care about the quality. Because you're buying it for someone else and someone else that you're responsible for, that hopefully you care and love. So opinion leaders give you that comfort, that sense that it's not just hyperbole, it's got meaning and it's real. So I think for this kind of product, key opinion leaders are more important than just about any other industry.
And I think that you're right about that. What a KOL brings to, but I think even in B2B, business to business, if you're making big decisions about your company and you're trying to pick the right lighting source or the right, semiconductors that are going to go into your future products. I mean, sometimes there's so much writing on that there's, again, a lot of pressure. Hopefully you like the company. But looking at KOLs, even in a B2B space, is important because you won't have all the information. You have to kind of fill in the blanks with people you trust.
Yeah. And we listen. We don't do our own research. The most recent iPhone that comes out, it'll be packed with features. Of course it will, but you will wait for some maybe tech writer in one of the major magazines or newspapers that will say, I saw an article that said, is the iPhone 12 is the latest? I don't know. I'm still stuck on an earlier version of an iPhone. But is the iPhone 12 worth it? Was the headline. Well, anyone considering that is going to read it. And that is a key opinion leader, right? That's someone whose job is to stay in front of the technical breakthroughs, to translate it into what it means practically. And you're right, Mary, that exactly is the same if you're buying lighting for B2B, you're buying new ball bearings for your gearboxes that you make, whatever it is. If someone out there that is seen as being credible, neutral, and authoritative, then their voice carries weight. It's better than any advertising because it appears to be done with no ulterior motive. They're not trying to sell you. They are trying to educate you, and that's a key difference.
What I think our friend Lynn did so very well too is she approached the KOL strategy like these key opinion leaders were customers. In other words, she did a full strategic effort to try to understand which of these key opinion leaders were most important to ask to endorse the product. And then thinking about their needs, because if they're really, truly valuable KOLs, a lot of people want them to talk about their products. So you have to start to think about what are their needs, what kinds of products and things do they like to talk about with their network, and how can I, with my product, align with those needs. Lynn did a fantastic job, and it really, really paid off.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and ironically, she needed that strength because if you think about the different customer groups, she had another customer group that was diametrically opposed to them. The retailers were doing everything possible to suck the value out of the infant formula because they wanted to have it as a lost leader, to be able to get parents in so that they buy the diapers and everything else along with it. And so they, in a lot of categories, we see price pressure. We saw extremely so with this industry where they were trying to say, look, it's just a bunch of powder in a can. Can't you lower the price? And they had to work really hard to say, no, this is going to help your baby's brain and eye development. And it's worth that extra money that consumers are going to pay. So I thought that balance was even more important with their category.
I think the progression of their their stakeholder plan as well is just such an interesting story here. When we first met them, and their revenues, I believe, Mary, were maybe $500,000, $400-500 million a year. Not insubstantial, but they grew, several times over a short period of time. And that was where their primary focus was when we first met them, was with retailers. And what they did very strategically is to take that influencer map and look at all the entities that are involved and realize, first of all, there's this important stakeholder called the pediatrician or the gynecologist that is advising mom. Could we, get them to start talking, not just the key opinion leaders, but could we, on a more widespread basis, get these people to start to talk about our product and recommend our product? And then even further, and I know a lot of people in our audience and our B2B marketers are wondering, with a B2B product, when do I go to the end user? Well, this is a B2B2C product, but they decided and made a key strategic decision to then start communicating directly with moms in a way that, was kind of regulated in the market, and they weren't allowed to kind of really overtly promote their product, but they found ways to communicate and build goodwill with the moms. And so now they had retailers, doctors, and moms, and the key opinion leader endorsement, and all of this was really powerful catalyst to their sales growth. But I think one of the things, the reason I also wanted to set this up is because, there wasn't without blemishes. There was some challenges that they had that Sean and I kind of encountered. And Sean, what do you have to say about the situation in the UK?
Yeah, well, I guess it's like any marketing initiative or strategy it's a game of chess, and you're usually across the board from somebody else, and they'll be maybe trying to do the same things or cancel out your moves, if you will. And the UK business was in a real tough spot. And actually, the competitor they were up against is also a good lesson in terms of what they did, because they took the approach of having a premium, almost medicalized product. So the product didn't look like an infant formula. It didn't have pictures of babies or pastel colors. It was very stark and dark blue and had a brand name that sounded more like a medicine. And it was very much this driven by science approach. And it was a premium product, got a lot of endorsement from the medical profession because they also went for the key opinion leaders, and became this premium product. Now, you can, of course, play catch up. You can try and carve out your own niche, but there was a lot of tradition in this market. People liked what they were familiar with. They remember the sort of infant formula they saw from their parents' generation or from their older siblings. And to move that up, they would create a gap. And what was, I think, genius about this competitor's move was that they also followed behind with a traditional, more old school product. So they had a sort of sandwich effect. And our client found themselves stuck in the middle. If they tried to move premium, they would vacate the area they were strong in. If they tried to dominate the area they were strong in, they could see losing market share to this growing influence of the I call it the medicalized brand, but the more premium brand. And it made it a tougher spot to get out of. You almost have to fight on two fronts, which is, of course, what they did and did successfully. But you have to fight on two fronts. So, where possible, move first. Be the person setting the agenda rather than playing defense. Is not a choice you always get to make, but it's definitely the preference should you have that choice.
Yeah, I always thought, and this happened in the UK, but luckily didn't happen globally, for the company. So while they struggled in the UK with this sandwiching that Sean described, they were strong enough in the rest of the world to continue their leadership and still be attractive to Nestle. But I think it's an interesting question, if we have time, Mary, to talk about how do you keep from getting sandwiched like that? What do you do? Anybody have any ideas?
Well, first of all, I think you have to know that is happening. Sometimes we watch companies and they're like, I don't know how we lost it. So the way that Sean's articulating it, they were smart enough to do enough analysis and get in the customer's mind to go, oh, there's easy tools to map out perceptions of where these things are. So starting with a good perceptual map, I think is the first step of that journey. And then a good ability to compete will never hurt you. Being able to look at the analysis on those, and there's always a way to sidestep. If you're their premium, you flip that around on them. If they're the low end, there's always a way to flip around, or you come out with a low end too. So you sandwich them either with a ultra premium and or a really lower cost to kind of broaden your portfolio, but sandwich them as they have done potentially to you.
I think also this strikes me, we talk a lot about the art of strategy is to decide what not to do, just as much as it's to decide what to do, because you've got more things you could do. And hopefully because of our belief in focus, you're going to choose one thing or very few things that you're actually going to do, which means you're leaving a lot behind. But there's a caveat to that, which is to make an informed choice about what you're not doing. And that speaks to what you're saying, Mary, because one of the ways you avoid that competitor squeeze, that particular move, is to be thinking to yourself, what if, what are the opportunities here? Now, we could go premium. We could go to a budget brand. We could go for a particular feature of the product and push that because we think that's going to be really important. And when you look at all those and you make that decision, what will we do and what won't we do? You always have to then go that next final question, which is, what if the competition did this? It's almost like a scenario play where you're thinking, no, we've considered that market. We don't see it as a risk, but you've got to be watching. And if that seems to be happening, that someone is taking that space, be prepared to move quickly. So I think a key concept is that sort of making an informed decision about what you're not going to do, but that comes with the ability to move quickly should circumstances change. You've got to have that strategic mindset always.
I would like to throw, so I think, Mary, you talked about, just a constant focus on the ability to compete, right? And continually looking at what's going on in the marketplace and taking that, what we call that cold shower of reality. Sean, I think you're talking a lot about scenario planning or maybe even wargaming, right? Where you're,
right.
Again, to me, there's a third possible strategy, which is you could use positioning. Is there an opportunity to reposition or position in a way that changes the way that the competitor is viewed? I mean, Sean, you talked a lot about this product that had a very medicinal, pharmaceutical kind of name in a category that, yes, you want, medicinal properties, but and vitamin-like properties, but it's also a very nurturing kind of thing. Maybe there's an opportunity to paint that ultra premium as medicinal, in some way that causes a different view and positions and paints you in a positive light. We call that the opposite good. There's always an opposite good to a strong position in a marketplace. So I think there's a variety of things that you can do to keep yourself from becoming sandwiched, but if you wait too long, it can be really difficult.
Yeah. And then that was part of the response, because you think it's a really good point. You can't do me too, right? Once someone owns the space of the white coat space and the clinical space in this particular market, it's hard to say me too, budge over. There's room for two of us on this platform. But you do that opposite good, and then you focus on heritage, which they have. That's a key critical capability they had because they had been around for 100 years. It was very familiar, very safe. And that nurturing, that the scenes weren't labs and charts and hard to pronounce molecules that apparently did some good. It was about the bonding, the cuddling, the holding, the nurturing. And that is an opposite position to take. And that's the other thing, that when, if you don't have the choice of which direction you're going, that choice is made for you because of competitor activity, then don't be tempted to try and beat them at their own game. You've got to come around, tunnel under the castle walls. Don't try and batter your way through, I guess. There's got to be a different way.
I'm thinking about different categories where I've seen companies deal with this. And one of my favorite was a medical device company that had a more premium type of set of devices, but they knew that there was an international group that was potentially going to come in and undermine them with cheaper, disposable products. And so they had a team. They said, you guys go off, you have 6 weeks to pretend you don't work here and develop an arsenal of low-end knockoffs of our products. And, don't tell anyone about it. And we're going to put that on the shelf. And the moment that we see these groups starting to come in, we're going to be able to not only understand how they did it, but we're going to have something that we can make a first move on a low-end product first, because they had it ready to go whenever, but they didn't want to undermine their established market without really having the correct reason for it. But it was phenomenal. They did such a good job at not only creating their category, but protecting it from other people that were trying to destroy their category.
That's brilliant. That's like an insurance policy. That's like keep your powder dry, hold your fire, wait till you see the whites of their eyes, sort of in command, isn't it? It's like any time now we're ready to respond quickly and devastatingly. And that's again the art of strategies. It's what you don't do, but what you're prepared to do. You've got to always have that. You've got to be paranoid a little bit in this business, right?
Yep. Like Andy Grove always said.
Yeah, that's true. Only the paranoid survive. That was the quote.
Yeah. Tom, any closing thoughts?
Rascal missed a really good episode. Lots of advice there.
Yeah, I can see him. He's just disengaged. What can I tell you?
I think barked. I don't know if it came on my. I think he was voicing his approval of the
We're
content.
gonna have to do animal health one sometime soon. Then
Yeah, we got the audience.
Let's hear about the animals. So. We hope that you have thought about your category in new and different ways. We gave you some nuggets on things you might want to try. And as always, we love to hear if you're doing any of this and it worked, or if it didn't work. We'd love to hear that, of course, too. And you can find all our podcasts on our Accidental Marketer website, SoundCloud, anywhere you get the podcast. So thank you.
Thank you.